Hello, my name is Sophia Bridge, and I'm the author of The Freedom of the Unconscious, The Spiritual Structure of the World, and The Path to Return to the Source of Creation. And today the main topic that I want to discuss is what is consciousness and why do we need to know it and why is it important? It's really kind of the center premise, I guess, of the book. And as the title discusses, it talks about the unconscious. So what is conscious versus conscious? What is consciousness and why do I need it? And I had a really big moment, I guess, yesterday, so I feel really prepared to discuss this topic from end to end, and hopefully, if there are questions, you can certainly email me, and I will include my email address below. And if you have any questions or if anything is not clear. So, essentially there is, as the book talks about, we all started in, oneness with the divine. What do you call that? God, the creator, the light, there are many different names that people, refer to the divine energy, which I call the source of creation. There are a lot of different ways to describe that. So, but the issue is that at the beginning we were one with the source, and then we separated. And what was important and that you'll read in more detail in the book. So I'm just kind of going high level right now. But when we separated, we also then got a piece of what we call a klipot in Kabbalah. And this is like a piece of negativity within us that then sets us on our path. And this is really, really, important because this has determined your whole perspective in your life. It's both caused the traumas and the heartache, and as well as probably some developed really strong strengths. It's probably your strengths as well, but with everything eventually being out of balance becomes a problem. So, and every single one of us got a piece of what they call this teapot, and which is a piece of negativity. And I consider it in some ways, if you were to relate it to even that show Westworld, it's this programming. It's the initial programming. It's the seed. It's like the grain of sand, in an oyster that then, it causes the friction of which, therefore, the pearl develops around. And of course, then it becomes, something very beautiful and very, very precious and very sought after. And but you need that grain of sand. You need that catalyst, friction in order to create the stimulus for greatness, And so that teapot is also, and that negativity we got when we separated from the source is what also has created the initial programming within us. So if we were very artistic, if we were very, very loving, if we're very spiritual, if we're very materialistic, all these types of things are like ingrained programs. If we love children, we didn't love children, we we're wanting to use more intellect, people maybe were more emotional. There are a handful, of different, initial programmings and a handful of mixtures of them that then set us on a particular path. And then all our experiences from one incarnation to another incarnation, one lifetime after another, get framed around this grain of sand, this teapot that we got when we separated from the source. And this is what then becomes a big source that later has to be overcome. So what happens with unconscious behavior? Unconscious behavior is things that we do that we aren't aware of for many reasons, whether because we have mastered a certain type of learning in our head or understanding from many, many life experiences, both in this current life and past lives, that you've mastered this understanding, that it just becomes robotic. It becomes robotic behavior. So it seeks into the unconscious. There are things that we hide and lie to ourselves about that also go into the unconscious. There are traumatic experiences that we don't want to remember, but really haven't fully addressed or healed, so it goes into the unconscious. There are many things that go into the unconscious mind that that need to be dealt with, you know, and brought into consciousness. And this is the issue: to become aware, to bring it into awareness of all those facets, both the the good sides of ourselves, the negative sides of ourselves, that often called in people might call the dark side, people call it shadow, in Jungian psychology we call it the shadow. So these negative sides that we try to hide ourselves because we want to believe that we're perfect, and we want to put out this perfect image to everybody else as well. And we even lie to ourselves of the bad things that we do, some of the negative, I should say, negative things that we do, But the reality is, because of this grain of sand, there are going to be these things that we do. And we all do things that are negative. We all do things that aren't aligned with the perfect person, perfect standards of behavior and being and ways of being that we just don't do. And the reality is that they will probably never be perfect. The issue where we come into is what they call wholeness, but that's a topic for another video. But so this issue is that we all have this negativity, and this is why we're all in this struggle. We're all trying to overcome it, and we have some aspect that we try to hide. Primarily, we hide it from ourselves, and certainly we try to hide it from other people. Sometimes we hide it from ourselves and other people to the out, and maybe people may not so close to us, maybe, in the outer, public, or people we work with, maybe they don't necessarily see it, but maybe our close family does. But, there are things that we hide from ourselves that other people clearly see, but you're not aware of. And then sometimes people don't really want to tell you because they know, what, this person's going to really upset, or, maybe it's not my place to say that, and, all sorts of things. But, sometimes there are people outside of you that are aware of these things that you lie to yourself and are in complete denial that this is what you do, how you think or react. So that being said, is that these are all the things we want to bring into our conscious awareness. We want to accept all these things, both, how can I say, positive and negative, which is like our shadow side, that we do. And the second that you embrace and acknowledge this shadow side, the negativity, it loses its power. It loses its strength. It will happen less frequently, with less intensity, and it won't control your life. But if you ignore it, it eventually is going to grow and grow and grow to explode. So this is where people's scandals, people's, like famous people, come into play, because they ignored it, and other people help them to ignore it as well. But if ever you keep on ignoring this negative behavior, eventually the day will come that it's going to blow up, So, so the issue is that trying to bring it into conscious awareness to avoid these extreme cases of chaos. So the more you work on yourself, and the more you deal with the issues, and the more you face those things in a very open, honest way within yourself and with others, the less power that they will have and the less chaos they will cause in your life. And so this is how the benefit of coming into consciousness and about becoming more aware of all aspects of yourself, that helps to, I guess, lead a better life, that helps to have a more peaceful life. And these days, there is the topic of, world peace. We want to have world peace. And everybody's arguing back and forth, which is kind of not peaceful. But anyway, about what exactly, that should look like, and how do you get there, and what creates it. And the real, true answer of what creates it is you. You have to deal with that negativity. You have to deal with your pride and jealousy and control issues and lying and overindulgence or laziness or being a workaholic, being too materialistic, not being materialistic enough, Maybe you were supposed to get an education this lifetime and then you didn't, or you've been avoiding it for several lifetimes, and this is like the next step and you need to do it and you haven't, Some of it is that you keep relying too much on education, get one degree after another, and like now it's like, you know what? sometimes you either got to do something or you can't just keep gathering information. Part of it is just have to live the experience, of life. And so, like living behind degrees and titles that makes you important, at the same time of avoiding education at the same time completely, because you're like, it's boring, blah, 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 or, and being long and how can I say out of balance in any particular way eventually is going to need to be brought into balance. But this is how you become, I guess, how can I say, you bring about world peace. And how does that happen? Because you have to create a vibration on the earth that allows for higher consciousness. Because until you remove negative consciousness from this earth and this unconsciousness from this earth, the peace cannot come the way most of us hope to. And the only way you can get there is truly to do the work for yourself. And this is what came to really the dots connected for me yesterday. And so this is why I'm taping this, is that you see, when you get that negativity in yourself from when your soul came separated from the source of creation and came into existence and was going to start the incarnation process, of having the full human experience in this physical plane, and to develop yourself to be having like the consciousness, I guess what they call it, consciousness, Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, God consciousness, however, to have that type of awareness to both giving and receiving, and to love others and yourself unconditionally. Because this is how the source of creation, the divine, is. He loves us unconditionally. And he is a huge giver. He gives us everything. But at the same time, I guess need to receive as well. So he made us to receive and to give. And that's, all that in balance as well as to love. I said love is a big part of the lesson here, as well as, sharing and giving to others, in a balanced way. So, but in that, because we got this teapot, right, that I talked about, it's that grain of sand to make the pearl who is your amazing self. Eventually, that you could say that's the initial programming, the programming that said, oh, life is like this. And then all your experiences happen to sort of validate, oh, life is like that. Well, life is like that for you, because of your mixture of programming teapot that you got at the very beginning. But eventually there comes a time after you've worked on yourself and your awareness has grown sufficiently that all of a sudden now you're allowed to leave that programming. Okay. And so this is, the work that needs to be done is to master the instinctual drives, which is in the book. And I'm not going to go into detail about that at this moment, but it's to master those instinctual drives. And the more mastery we have over those allows us the opportunity to then come in to leave that initial program. And I would say that initial program, that grain of sand, that teapot, is what needs to be removed from yourself, where you get free of it. And when you are free of that negativity in yourself, that's when you will love yourself unconditionally, you will love others unconditionally, and you will have balance of giving and receiving, the ability to give and receive in an equal way. And you will work to release all and heal all the wounds from past lives, all the wounding that has occurred because of this initial programming, this teapot, this grain of sand, So you'll be able to work to remove it. And this is where they call that the twin flame relationship comes in, where you meet like the ultimate, soulmate, and then you work together to remove what are the last pieces of this unconsciousness and this teapot. And so to heal all the wounds from the trauma of your human experience, to heal the wounds from that experience, to bring everything into conscious awareness and to make it about love and bring love to the highest vibration. But you can only really enter this twin flame relationship till you are the highest consciousness in the area of truly of sexuality, right? And so when you're able to do that, the relationship itself becomes the work for the world. It's not about volunteering anymore. It was before this point. But when you get to this point where you have your twin flame, the work of the relationship and of healing all of these wounds and clearing out all this trauma and negative pain, hurt, and suffering and memories that you have from your human experience on this earth after many lifetimes, when you go, that has been based because of the klipat, the initial programming that you received when your soul separated from the source of creation, then you remove the klipat. And when you remove this grain of sand, you're removing that piece of negativity and eliminating it from this earth. And therefore, in that process, the consciousness, your own consciousness raises, but it helps then to raise the level of consciousness of the entire earth, because now there is one piece of klipat that no longer exists anymore. So there's less negative energy in the world. And so then the vibration of the earth goes up, and this then allows for more love and more consciousness of more people to then enter the earth, this earth and physical plane. And this is one step closer to the peace that people are looking for. It is not, about foreign policy. It's not about a governmental structure, and it's not about any of those things. It is about your own personal work to overcome that klipat, the initial programming that you received, that was the grain of sand that both created your whole human experience and drove it, but also is the source of kind of negativity and trauma in your life that therefore needs to be overcome. Some of the trauma is also, how can I say, some of the trauma is related to the cycles that experience the human cycle, which, the evolution of the soul, which I discussed, in the book. It's related to the whole human experience that we must go through as a soul, that is part of the process of raising, our consciousness of our soul to the highest levels. So, so it is part of that process, but this is really a huge part, because that drove your perspective. It's how you interpret the information. And then you said, oh, well, because of this, therefore that, and because of this, therefore that, and because of this, and then the experiences you carry reinforcing that perspective, that programming, that klipat. And so then you started to form your life and very direct, thinking process in a very specific range. But the issue is, because we all got different ones, and a mixture of, I would say, like a handful of ones. But, since we all got different ones, we each have a different perspective. And so the person next to you has a whole different programming than you do. And it is not the same. Although there's some commonalities, they're not exactly the same. And so that's why each person has to do their own spiritual work, has to get in tune with their own guidance to undo and remove this klipat. But when you do it, this is what removes the permanent negativity from this, from this earth plane. And this is what allows more loving energy and more compassionate energy to enter the world. So this is why we're in a very big time period where there are many, many twin flames now that are coming in to what they call union, and for this exact purpose. But these ultimate relationships of love, of this, perfect spiritual love, is really about the business of removing the final pieces of the klipat. So as amazing the energy between these two people will be, it's still, it's some serious work. And that's what I finally, the dots got connected for me yesterday. And it's like, it's some serious work. It's not like the Cinderella, where Prince Charming comes, puts on the slipper, and they get married and they live happily ever after. This is really dedicated, difficult, work that has many opportunities of bliss. Don't get me wrong. God gives you enough good, amazing ecstasy and bliss between the two of you in your experience, and amazing love that has been like nothing you've ever experienced before, and it helps to keep you going through those very challenging times of removing the last pieces of the teapot, which is the grain of sand, that programming, and you get released from this instinctual drives, and this is really the work that step by step you do from lower levels of consciousness and awareness, to increase your awareness. And this is the work that helps to increase the vibration of the earth, removes the negative, um, like I said, programming or klipot, grain of sand that you received when your soul was separated from the source of creation, when it was first came into existence in human form, and what has guided your human experience, and that allows for the peace to come in. And so this is why I feel like this book kind of puts a lot of things together. It there, it it puts things together all together in a very like high level fashion. I mean, there is tremendous amount of detail that would take many books. That's kind of what I used to pull this together. But I put it all in one place so that you could kind of get a feel for all the influences and things that we have to go through as a soul on this physical plane in this human body, and so that you can have it like a handy, reference book, when times get tough and you're like, no, no, what do I do again? Or remember, how am I supposed to handle this? Or why is this happening to me? And, this is, certainly like a handbook to give you some high level guidance, as well, because of the citations that are in this book. You can easily find the sources if you needed to and wanted to know more in depth information regarding a topic or a particular area, that you could buy a book that's cited in my book. So if you're interested and need to know more, you could do that. But I hope that to have online videos and that I guess you'll say in lectures that through over time that maybe I could address these issues also in questions in more detail. But I just want to say that this is the kind of the premise of my book, is to sort of put at a high level all these very complicated topics in the simplest form I could, so that it's easy to understand and to have it handy for an easy reference, for the most like critical topics, So that being said, I think that that is the work that needs to be done. Is that we need to transform ourselves, work on elevating our consciousness, and I guess in this book it discusses some ways, or information that there is on how to do that. Again, that will go in more detail at a later date and in other videos, but to take that process, this is crucial. This is what your level of consciousness determines your life experience, how good or how bad it is. And this is why it is so important, because if your life, you want to end the suffering, if you want it to be happier, more fulfilling, more abundant, then you have to expand your consciousness. So you need to learn what's unconscious in me, and how do I raise my consciousness, and what if I'm here at this level, what are the next steps to get to the next level, and how quickly can you move through this in one lifetime, and how many lifetimes does it take to get from one major phase to another. So those are some of the things to, I guess, questions to ask and be addressed, but I think the main issue is that to understand that the consciousness is extremely important. It determines the quality of your life and your life experience. So the most important thing you could do really is to again learn to, where am I at in my consciousness, and how do I go to the next level, and then keep working on the next level and the next level and then the next level, and knowing that every time you increase your consciousness, your life is going to get better. The world around you is going to get better, and literally that transformation and that awareness and that removing of this negativity is what is going to bring world peace. It has to come within us. We have to get over, because the anger, jealousy, violence, vindictiveness. You hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you. You took from me, so I'm going to take from you. Or all this types of thinking is really of lower levels of consciousness, and so so the issue could be like, oh gosh, this is how this works. Maybe it's easier to move through the steps, and you're like, oh, I can let that go. And or how do I maneuver that? Because I think the other thing is that how do you deal with it as you try elevate your consciousness? How do you deal with people who are not in that process? So that is definitely a few videos in and of itself, because that is part of the tricky maneuvering through this maze of the expansion of consciousness. Because if you're doing it and other people aren't doing it, you kind of have to have to maneuver that kind of carefully. And so I would like to share over time that how I've learned to do it and what I've learned. And of course, I've learned by trial and error, and so I will share my experiences, so hopefully it can make your experience a little bit easier. And I think that's really, what I'm here to kind of say and help people through, is to just really understand, that consciousness is everything. And this is how you make your life better. And this is how you end the wars that everybody wants to end, is when you I say expand your consciousness and overcome your negativity, to recognize that there are going to be things that maybe you, like the shadow side, you're not going to necessarily get, how can I, perfect, but it's the come into wholeness, where you come into balance between, like I said, the masculine and the feminine aspect, and you learn to accept and love yourself exactly how you are, and you learn to accept and love others how they are, and you see that everybody is in the process, in their own stage, and what that means to you and to them. And so, but if you can kind of come to an understanding that every single one of us is in process of this work and this experience here on this earth, then you'll begin to, I feel like, have some compassion for people. And that's really essentially what is also opens the door to better relations between people. And but it's a process, because sometimes when we fed that negativity, the only way out sometimes is through a little bit of negativity. So it's not like, oh my gosh, and everything's going to go away in an instant. It's like, if you've been feeding something, a negative aspect of yourself or a negative behavior, for a really long time, probably many many lives, sometimes the only way to get corrected is that there's going to be a whole lot more chaos on the way out, in trying to overcome it, So this is why you also really need to understand the process and have a positive attitude about what's happening, and to say, this is difficult, but there are going to be good days, and there are going to be some amazing days. There's going to be, what keeps you going in your own personal processes, maybe before you meet your twin flame, is the same thing that sort of keeps you going when you're with your twin flame, is the fact that God does give you, or the divine or source of creation, spirit, gives you amazing, like, moments of ecstasy and bliss and just pure peace that comes just into you, that could last for a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, a week, a couple of weeks, and to help, you're like, oh wow, that was amazing. And then you keep doing the work, you'll have another little amazing experience like that. And then you're like, wow, this is great. And it's going to be better than anything that you have ever experienced in your entire life. And it'll just be sort of like the motivator, just, keep in the process. So, so the creator keeps throwing you some sort of, like, incentives or whatever to keep going in the process, because it definitely is worth it. There are going to be some difficult times. Trying to do this work is not easy, but it's so worth it. And again, it will bring you fulfillment and happiness and greater prosperity and more peace and security in your life as you go through this process, especially when you move from the really low levels of consciousness up through, up through the scale, I guess you could say, uh, that your life will get better and it will get more secure. There will be more peace. There will be more love. There will be more happiness, and it will be. And there may be some times, as life is, that it's challenging, just to, in general, as we go through all this. But it is definitely worth it. And we are in a time where I think we're here to all support each other in this process. And I think this is the point of these videos, to share our experiences, to share our knowledge, so that it becomes, easier for the next person, to go through it. And so that's why, I wrote this book, and I'm going to do these videos to help share my experiences and the knowledge that I've gathered, both through, you could say, reading and research, and also through my personal life experience. And so that's why I'm here. And I, just like I said, again, it connected the dots yesterday, where I'm like, oh yeah, we come in, with the teapot, technically the grain of sand that makes the pearl, and then it's the programming, and as we go through life, it creates our experience, and then we think, oh, this feedback loop, learning, oh, if I do this, therefore that, but that's working for your programming. But for somebody else's programming, they're learning a whole other, it could be completely opposite knowledge of you, and still live in the same world, and so it is through and it's until you meet people, which, that's what I've been, I guess, like, lucky to have done, in the recent past, is that to have met people that are completely picked, who are very similar to you, but picked completely different, an opposite path to you did, and a way of thinking as you did, and when they're still here, they're still happy, they're still alive, there's, all these kind of things, and yeah, they have areas that need to fix, and they're the opposite of yours. And so, but in their thinking, they thought this was safe, this is the right thing to do, this is the best way to do it. And you see this when you, oh, look what happened to her, oh, look, what happened to him, well, when they did the opposite of me, oh, look what happened, but at the same time, there are things that, oh, when they did that, look what happened, so depending on, how you look at it, it depends on, it reinforces your initial programming, right? The seed level programming. So, but like I said, then you get to the point where you start to have this awakening, and you really step into a bigger awareness of consciousness, and then the increasing conscious awareness comes at a much faster, rapid pace, and then therefore you may get to the point where you, in one lifetime or the next one or several, that you may be able to merit, you could say, union with your twin flame, and then this will require additional work. But again, the twin flame union only comes at high levels of consciousness in the areas of that would be, sexuality, right? So, and it will help to eliminate the last few bits of, this negativity, which I call this teapot, this, again, seed level programming that you got in this, you could, and when that is eliminated from this world, then that is what brings, there is less negativity in this world. There is just less negativity. And therefore, the balance has moved more to the positive side, you could say to the light, because you've done the work to remove the darkness within you, and bring the light to the situation. And therefore, the vibration of the earth goes up. People feel, humanity will feel the increase in the vibration, and it will make it easier for other people coming after you to be able to go through this process to elevate their consciousness, remove the negativity, and bring more light to the world as they remove the teapot. And so this is how I see it, and so for me, this is how you sort of bring about that state, that peaceful state, not only in your life, but in the world. And so when you work on yourself and increase your consciousness and do the work to eliminate that initial seed teapot, programming, and that negativity was geared from that, by accepting your shadow and healing from all the traumatic experiences, that our souls have gone through during our existence, that you help to bring about peace in your own life, and help bring peace in other people's life just by your own personal action from eliminating that from the world. So I know I've said that a lot of times, but I just really hope that I can get that message across, that by doing this work, by elevating your consciousness, removing the negativity from yourself, completely, that then you can, and I say that to pop, because I say completely because you come, how you kind of eliminate it is through the awareness and the acceptance of your imperfections, and so that's, it's not that you're going to be perfect. You're going to come into wholeness, which we'll just, again, like I said, at a future date, but it's not going to be perfect, and you might still have, some shadow side that still exists there. But because you have an awareness, because you have a love for yourself, because you understand, no longer beating yourself up for not being perfect, not feeling shame or guilt for not being perfect, then then it sort of loses its power, and that's kind of, I guess the point of all that is that even though you still might have, some, I don't know what you call it. So, some, what, you're not going to be perfect. There's going to be things maybe you still do that annoy some people, but the issue is that, it's not going to create as much negativity because, hopefully if everybody gets it, they'll know, hey, he's not perfect. So I start not to react so badly to when somebody else does something that's not, perfect. I don't take it personally. I realize, oh, that's kind of his issue. It's not mine, or I be able to recognize, oh yeah, that's my issue. Oh, I need to do something about that, but not without beating up myself and not without hating myself or feeling guilty or something is wrong with me, because I realize that there's some, that everybody has some issue that they're always will be working on, but that's okay. And so once I love myself just how I am, and I can love others, knowing, hey, we're all not going to be perfect, but you know what? That's okay. But we need to eliminate this real huge programming being trapped in this seed level consciousness, that's in the unconscious. It kind of puts us in this robotic state. We need to work to eliminate that, and then to heal the wounds and the trauma that we've experienced as a soul from one lifetime to another, through our human experience, And so once we do that, like I said, we eliminate the negativity from the earth, and that raises the vibration, and therefore makes it easier for other people to do this work, to eliminate that negativity, and then it keeps elevating till, we do have peace, in this world. Of course, this is many lifetimes, this is many years, it could be centuries, from now, but the work you do today affects tomorrow and the next and the next and the next. And remember, you might have to reincarnate again. You do this work, and you may move a lot of levels, but maybe you're not done yet. And you have to reincarnate another lifetime or two. So you're only making the world better for yourself in the future. So the work is never futile or a waste of effort or energy, because you're making the world better for your kids by working on yourself and elevating and expanding your consciousness and coming into fuller awareness and eliminating, like I said, the seed level programming, the klipad, and then and making it easier not only for your kids and for the world, but also for your future self if you have to come back because you still got some work to do. So, so that's how, things get better, and that's how things are going to change. When you take personal responsibility to know, I am a direct contributor, and my behavior in my personal life and the world around me is connected to what goes on in this world. And when I eliminate my negativity, it creates bigger space for positive energy, to come in. And that allows for more love in my own life right now, more abundance, more fulfillment, more happiness, more peace in my life right now, as well as in my future lives and for this earth and all of humanity. So, because we're all interconnected. So, but once you raise the vibration of this earth, it keeps going. And so this is what's really, important, and why this work is really important. So I hope that, obviously that, this is, my book, and it's for sale on Amazon. And so I hope that you buy the book so that you can have it for reference, because it is I feel like for me, I used to do it for myself. I mean, I did it for myself, so I wouldn't have to keep fishing through a whole bunch of books looking for looking for where did I read that, and as issues come up in my life and I'm trying to deal with it, I read something about that somewhere, so I just decided to put it all together. So again, with my own personal life experiences, intuitive, but you'll get more expanded experiences and more detail again in the videos, but so you can buy the book, and I will have more videos going in the future. So I hope that you will see those as well. And again, this is my first one, the first one I've ever done. So there it is, and so I just hope that this is beneficial to someone, and that 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 can be help on this journey, and I will share as much of my experiences to make yours, I guess, a little bit easier. So that's all I have for right now, and if you have any questions, you can email me at the email address below. Thank you. Good night.